Guys, it's not every day you're going to hear me talk legal jargon on the YouTube channel. Don't click off immediately when I say that because it benefits Kansas State. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'd love to talk about this in my own free will and say, I love talking about the specific bylaws of the NCAA and all the things that involve it. I don't, to be honest with you. But if I'm talking about it, there's a reason I'm talking about it. In today's video, we're discussing a topic that has the opportunity to greatly benefit Kansas State specifically in the upcoming season. We're going to talk about a couple different things that all lead to this overarching conclusion of what could happen in the future for Kansas State, something that I really want to discuss with you about one specific player. If you already know the story, just hang on tight, listen to the full facts, but I want to give you a little bit of an idea and some background about the NCAA. Point A, they stink. They stink at everything they do. Everything about the NCAA sucks. No one's disputing that. No one's disagreeing. But I'm also not saying that NIL is a perfectly unflawed landscape. It's flawed. It stinks at times, but it also helps guys get paid and compensated for what they deserve. That being said, it's been taken advantage of. Now that system's in its own world, and the NCAA has no control. Today, we're going to talk about two specific cases that benefit Kansas State. And you can think about ones in years past where basically guys have said, hey, NCAA, your rules stink, and they're not helping anything in my situation. This is written wrong. This is bad. I need to change this. This needs to change. And you can think about two very public examples of that. Raekwon Battle, a name we all know as Kansas State fans, sued the NCAA for eligibility for his own specific circumstances, got that final year of eligibility at West Virginia. And the more recent, more notable one has been Diego Pavia, the Vanderbilt quarterback who sued the NCAA regarding that his JUCO season should not count towards his D1 eligibility. The current bylaws state you have 5 seasons to play 4 years of eligibility. Obviously, there's gaming the system with medical red shirts and this and that. And, guys will play 7 years of college football if they can. It's the way things work now. It's the reason you see Cam Rising playing 7 years of college football because he keeps getting injured. You keep applying for the medical red shirt. And there's not really a system that says, at some point you're done. Most guys can figure out a way to stay in college if they need to. But Diego Pavia was kind of the first one that said, hey, let me actually go after the NCAA and change this. Rather than just changing it for me, let me say, hey, this precedent is wrong. And it's affecting athletes all across the country rather than just myself. Diego Pavia cited the increase of NIL, saying I'm playing for life-changing money. And obviously there's reasons beyond that. A kid wants to play football, go to the NFL, more opportunities to succeed, more opportunities to get drafted, more opportunities for just about everything. But him and his legal team won a case against the NCAA, which granted all JUCO players, guys that spent time in the JUCO leagues, the same amount of years they spent there towards D1 eligibility. That applies to a couple dudes on K-State, both football and basketball. Moby Ike Garuka played at Ellsworth Community College, JUCO college type thing. He's going to get another year of eligibility. He's only a sophomore. He'll have more years beyond that. Uso Seumalo is a big notable one. Marquavius Moss, who just committed to Kansas State, spent time at West Georgia, and then the year before that, obviously at JUCO in the state of Kansas. I think it was Butler, if I'm not mistaken. Also could have been Hutch. I'm kind of blurring the lines there. But the point is, guys that spent time at JUCO ranks get another year of eligibility or however many years they spent there. To put it in layman's terms, and I wouldn't be talking about this if I didn't have a specific reason, please stay patient on this one. Let me read you the background on the Diego Pavia case. Pavia and his lawyers state that the NCAA and its member institutions violated antitrust laws with their rules and regulations for junior college players who transfer to Division I programs. This is a direct quote. We're not saying the NCAA can't have eligibility requirements, but a junior college season shouldn't be the equivalent of an NCAA season when the junior college season has no meaningful opportunities to earn NIL, no television exposure. They take other athletes who are playing elsewhere outside of high school and don't hold those seasons against them. That's the thing. I mean, guys can transfer in that haven't played in the NCAA and they're protected. This is a situation that has been stupid. Diego Pavia sues, they win the case. What that means going forward is big. Like I said, it helps guys like Marquavius Moss and Uso Seumalo. It helps like a guy like Kobe Savage. Obviously, he's declaring, so he's not sticking around in college football, but you get a lot of dudes that do get some eligibility back. The next conversation beyond that. Do guys that spent time in D2 football, D3 football, do they get protected under the same bylaws that JUCO players do? Is it a similar 1-to-1 ratio where they should get eligibility back? Well, that question was one that everybody and their brother asked at the time of the Pavia ruling, and now it's caught up to us. It's basically guys saying, hey, this is stupid. You can't just give JUCO guys this and not give it to guys that haven't played D1. If you're suing for more D1 eligible seasons, you can't count D2 and D3 against them. And folks, that's going to benefit Kansas State if it passes. Now, there's going to be a ton of different things. The NCAA will say, no way in hell it happens. We can't do that, blah, blah, blah. I have a feeling it's going to happen. And I'm not a legal guy. I don't know the ins and outs of this like that, but I have a feeling it's going to happen. It benefits one of our very own. Kansas State guard Max Jones, who's in his final season of eligibility, would have the option to exercise another year and come back to Kansas State in 2025-26 because he started his career at D2 Tampa. This is something that I've been discussing, kind of, hitting points here and there, but not being, on brand about. Like, I've tried to kind of dance around the topic as many have, but this is something that's coming to fruition. A lot of guys are jumping in this conversation, and there's specific things, and I want to give a shout out to my guy Caleb for flagging this down. there's a lawsuit we need to discuss because it happened just the other day. This was on the 4th. A baseball player from, I think, Stonehill College, that's a D2 baseball college, sued the NCAA in a very Pavia-esque case. This report's from a dude that's really plugged in, Boise State professor, a guy that's an ex-lawyer, writes about college sports as a whole, the legal side of things. Really a dude that knows what he's talking about. That's Sam Ehrlich? I hope I'm saying that right. Ehrlich? I could be butchering that. I apologize, Sammy, if you're watching this, brother. But this is what he had to say on Twitter. Another Pavia-like eligibility suit against the NCAA. This time by Maryland baseball player Trey Cuela Hall, I don't know. Names are hard to pronounce, but by a kid from Maryland. He's basically saying in 2020 to 2021, he spent a year at D2 Stonehill College and that it shouldn't count, both under the recent precedent, so that's NIL stuff, there's no opportunity to make money, it's no national television at D2 colleges, and also due to COVID-related extenuating circumstances. He's suing the NCAA for another year of eligibility. If this case passes, and it's not the only one, there's going to be 100 different more cases that happens. I mean, heck, Max Jones could do the same thing. These dudes are looking at this saying, okay, we're getting screwed. I'm not going to stand for that. If this guy's getting another year, I need another year. Let's get this thing right. And D2 and D3 guys are popping up left and right suing the NCAA for eligibility. And folks, it feels like it's about time where they rule in favor of that. Or at least a judge rules in favor of that. The NCAA wouldn't say, sure, good idea. It'd be a judge ruling in that saying, okay, that makes sense to me. You presented a great case. Let's get this thing going. Everybody's eligible if they spent time at D2 or D3 schools to transfer and play 4 years at D1 colleges. He continued on that thought, and I was going to kind of mention this as well. This is a very similar fact pattern to the lawsuit filed last week by a Wisconsin football player, which coincidentally has a hearing on his motion for a temporary restraining order starting in about half an hour. I imagine that decision will be impactful on that one. That decision will be impactful in all cases, to say the least. It's something to monitor for sure, and basically the situation is this. If that motion passes, if you get a restraining order or it rules, preliminary injunction, if the NCAA has basically said, hey, you can't enforce this, the kid's right. Basically have fun, have a good day, man. It's not going to matter to you, but this kid gets to play again. It opens a can of worms for everybody in D2 and D3 basketball, D2 and D3 football, baseball, soccer, any sport you can imagine. They're going to have some opportunity there. And I know that the quick, reaction to this would be, hey, you're ruining college sports. Guys can't spend 10 years in college. It's not fair and blah, blah, blah. At some point, I get it. Also understand, if you're going to hold people all to the same thing, you need to hold everybody. You can't just hold one group of people. You can't hold two groups of people. Everybody has to be agreed into the same lawsuit. Otherwise, it's how can you say Max Jones doesn't get another year when Diego Pavia does? Now, I'm not sitting here saying that D2 and JUCO aren't two different worlds. They are to an extent, but it's also not saying here that one is the major leagues and one's the minor leagues. There's a gap for a reason, but it's just unfair to everybody in the nation right now. Everybody's playing on the same unfair set of cards, and the best part is it might work out in our favor. It might work out in the athlete's favor, and Kansas State will benefit off that. Can I say what the long-term health is for the sport? No, absolutely not. The sports are going to happen regardless, whether that's 4 years of eligibility or there's no eligibility. Whatever you want to do, I get it. But the overarching biggest takeaway here, there's two things I want to say. One, keep your eyes out. This is not going to be the last case. This will not be, even the last 20 cases. There's going to be hundreds and hundreds of cases every season until it's, okay, we understand the rules. The NCAA does have to make it a situation where if you're going to play D1 football, that counts. If you're going to play D1 basketball, that counts. But it can't be a situation where okay, you play JUCO football for a year, that counts the same as a league where you can make NIL money, you can do this. It doesn't necessarily give that same thing. It's a whole different league, it's a whole different association, it's a whole different everything. It doesn't have a 1-to-1 ratio. So for Kansas State specifically, folks, you might get Max Jones back, a guy that is a fan favorite that everybody and their brother wants to have back in Manhattan next year. And I think if I'm Kansas State staff, if I'm Max Jones, that's the route I pursue. Not to say that Max can't have a professional career, not to say that he won't play professional or won't want to, but it feels like that's a guy that you want to have back incredibly bad. You add Max Jones, Brendan Hausen, you get Doug McDaniel back, you add a couple guys in the front court. That's a group with a lot of experience. You add another year of experience under that. You bring back Max, you bring back Brendan, you bring back Doug. Obviously, Doug and Brendan both have eligibility going forward, traditionally, but Max could benefit from this rule. It could greatly help Kansas State basketball. And folks, I want to see fan favorite players return. I don't want to see the 1-year lease thing. It sucks that Coleman's going to the NBA. I mean, it's great for Coleman, but as a fan, you want these guys here for 4 years so you can love them and appreciate them and cherish them. But 1 year stinks, man. It's dang, what could have happened if this guy's here for 3 or 4 years? What would that do for the program? Max Jones might be living that reality, folks. But that's going to do it for today's video. I will keep you updated if something passes, if an official motion or ruling is granted. Once again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an eligibility guru specialist guy. I don't know much about the NCAA's bylaws. What I do know is that Kansas State might have a great thing coming down the pipeline, and I pray that it works out in favor of Max Jones. But folks, that's going to do it for today's video. Pay attention. Keep watching for more of this stuff because I promise you this won't be the last. Have a great day. Thanks for watching, and go Cats.